Hey, you guys. So, this is Let's Heal podcast, right? Now, look, we new to this, but we still true to this, right? What I'm getting at is we had to make a little new intro because somewhere in, the download and editing process, it got a little jumbled up, but it's okay. All right. The podcast is still podcasting, but we figured we didn't want to be ghetto and just go straight into what we was talking about. We wanted to just give you a little intro, check on you, see how your day going. You know what I'm saying? The traffic good. I know that's right, Bookie. Okay, so I hope y'all enjoy this episode. And you'll see me soon, but I'll be wearing green. All right. You got this. And welcome to Let's Heal podcast. And I'm your host, Tella, right? Well, Tella, whatever. You can call me Chantel too, if you know me. But so I hope y'all having a good week. I'm having a good week. Tone, you having a good week? Everybody say hi to Tone.
Hey, hi.
Wait, say it again. I was talking over you.
Hi.
Hey. Mm-hmm. So we're more like we're a healing environment.
We go, Terry. Let's go with Terry.
Tone Terry. Tone Terry. That nigga said, I'm gonna give you the government name. It's Otis Jenkins. Y'all niggas not fucking with my music. No. So you had a good week?
Yes, I had a good week.
Do you want to share with everybody your good news?
Got a new job.
Ooh. Listen, we hard-working people, right? So, just for, about 10,000 views or more, we could really, you know what I'm saying, take this to the next, you know what I'm saying? We can really take this to the next level. So,
help this brother get out this
we only have $1 in a dream, okay? And all I'm saying is, hear me out. Give us your money. But we're going to help you, okay? Every week we're going to be here. Okay, and I want get a young black man off the streets that he walks when he gets out his car to go to his job. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just know that we out here working. So just shout out to Tone Terry for his new job. That's good. Let me see. My highlight of the week was okay. So this is pre-recorded. I think we figured this out by this episode. But I recorded the first episode 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. And this week was the week that I released the podcast. I was good as shit. Crazy. But, I feel like it's doing what it's supposed to do. And knowing that this is just going to build up its own momentum. Sounds good to me. We just going to let this ride out. But like I said, $1 a day. $10 a day per everybody that's listening will help, Tone Terry to accomplish his dreams of winning a podcast award. Stop, wait, we shouldn't laugh at that because that's actually a real thing. So,
right, it's coming.
It is coming. It's like an actual podcast award. Like, niggas win awards for that shit. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? I want it now. But whatever.
It's coming.
I mean, it's coming. So if y'all can help us, like, share, subscribe. We need to get that award that we just found out about. All right. Let me stop playing. So today we're going to be talking about trauma, right? Because we've been talking about a lot of different ways that trauma shows up, but we're going to talk specifically about what trauma is and how trauma gets passed down, from one generation to the next generation, right? While your sister acts just like your great auntie, you know what I'm saying? Or you got the same patterns that your mama had, that your daddy had, and you be trying to break these things. But the hard thing about trauma is that if you don't know what it is, or you're not aware of what it is, or how it's passed down, sometimes we end up passing it down almost accidentally, So trauma is like a very difficult experience, very sad, very overwhelming. Trauma can happen in ways that I don't think we always think about it. Because traumatic events, obviously, we think about like big things like murder or somebody passing away or something that happens at a large level. But trauma can also show up too, kind of in our day-to-day worlds, right? Where a situation that was overwhelming or exhausting or something that crossed your boundaries could have been traumatic to you or how your body responded to it, right? Even down to when we were kids, but we're going to get to the kid part in a second. There's another term called intergenerational trauma. And so I'm going to read it because if y'all thought I was going to remember a definition, you are sadly mistaken. I don't know what to tell you, babe. I'm not a dictionary. But I do have notepads. These are actually not mine. These are Tony's. Tone Terry's, my bad. Spring, summer. So those who understand that joke will understand that joke. Because I would tell you Tone Terry, but I'm gonna get sidetracked. So intergenerational trauma, I'm gonna tell you after we're done, is when an individual experiences trauma, their body may adapt by adjusting gene expression, and some even of these changes could be passed down to their children, akin to inherited notes. So like your body can actually like inherit these notes. Changes are not always definite, rather it's adaptable and can be rewritten by our own life experiences and actions. So what that means in layman's terms is that what happened to your mama and your grandmama and your great-great-grandmama, it's probably happening to you if you haven't been, intentional about changing that pattern, right? Or somebody in the pipeline hasn't been intentional about changing that pattern, because we a lot of times talk about generational curses, but some people are actually cursed. But that's a different episode. But there are some people who just, like my spiritual advisor would say, have patterns. So pretty much what that means is that what happened to your grandma, what happened to your great grandma, your grandma, your mom, these patterns can be inherited to you just through your DNA, your genes, right? Things can literally transform from you to the next person. And even the fact of like, for example, women, it can be transferred through men too, but with women specifically, we have all of the eggs that we'll ever have in our body, already in our body, right? So what that means is what your mom experienced, you experienced. What you're experiencing, your daughter will experience, because your daughter is an egg that's already in your body, and you were an egg that was already in your mom's body, so on and so forth, right? And so even in our genetics, trauma can be essentially passed down, right? And once you actually are birthed and you are being raised, if those traumas if the person is not aware or they're not cognizant of the fact that they have these traits, they have these patterns, they have these habits, then they're going to start showing up in how they raise you and how they treat you, right? So this is so important because a lot of times you can't figure out, my dad did this and that's why I do this. Or what's the example I wanted to use? Even like something as simple as substance abuse. When somebody abuses drugs in the family, granted, that doesn't mean that you're naturally going to do it, but you need to be aware of it because that's an inherited note that your body may have a tendency to urge for substances because it's in your pipeline. Your granddaddy used to drink, your daddy's a drinker, you're a drinker. You know what I'm saying? It can be passed down genetically. And then, of course, when we talk about trauma, this is things that are actually happening in our present moment that have shifted our world. Because I don't know if y'all know, trauma changes the waves in your brain, right? So when we experience a traumatic event, that situation, let's say if our brain waves is kind of going like this, our brain waves will start going like, you know what I'm saying? It would literally just change because it throws us off. You know what I'm saying? Think about when you have a bad situation happen and, for God forbid, you know what I'm saying? Somebody knock on wood. Yeah, I'm one of them. Damn, my arms are short. I'm knocking on wood after. Is this wood? No. Why you shake your head like that? Oh, damn it. Oh, you got me though? Okay, Jesus, I hope that works. But God forbid that there was like somebody experienced a car accident, right? After that car accident, the way that your body responds to driving, at least for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, maybe even months or years, is going to be completely different than the way that you were driving before, right? Think about the time I've gotten into a car accident like 2-3 years ago. And it was a crazy car accident because this is the thing. This probably has nothing to do with what I didn't need to talk about the accident, but I want to because I don't know who you were in that blue truck. This was a long time ago, like 8 years ago. But you were in a blue truck and you hit your brakes in front of me, right? To let a pedestrian go. And it wasn't even their time to go. It was in 4 o'clock traffic. I don't know who you are, but if I ever find you, I'm not going to do anything because we're on air and we're recording. But anyways, you hit your brakes and then I had to slam on my brakes and then the car slammed into me, right? The way trauma impacted my body is obviously, I had to go to the chiropractor. I had to, get my physical body looked at and I had pains and shit like in my neck and back. My neck and my back. I need $150,000. But we can settle in court. I forgot that last part. Anyways, sorry, the ADHD is doing its thing. But every time I would drive near that area, my body would be like, it would be almost as if my body already knew where we was at. And even just driving in general, like I drove more into like a conscious state. Like I had to, both hands on the wheel, you know what I'm saying? Looking straight forward, kind of leaned in like I am on this mic. You know what I mean? I was scared. I was scared for my life. And trauma had messed me up in terms of like driving. It took a while for me to feel comfortable to just drive without the fear. But even when I'm in like traffic, that anxiety from that moment is as if my body kind of goes back to that moment and, drops me back into that. And I have to be intentional about getting myself out of that, right? And, when I talk about trauma, changing the waves in our brain, I mean that literally, right? So there's this thing called epigenetics. I'm going to talk about it. It's the scientific field that investigates our environment, our influences, our genes, and alters our DNA sequence. It pretty much changes the way our DNA reads our body. So it doesn't change our DNA specifically, but it changes the way our body reads DNA, right? So it changes how our body expresses itself, affects our mood, our reactions, our health, so on and so forth, right? So just even in the fact of like my body was able to pick up on me just being in the neighborhood, right? Me being closer is as if my body, what's the book? The Body Holds the Score, So a lot of times we don't give our bodies enough recognition for all of the stuff that it's doing, but it's constantly picking up these different alerts. But back to epigenetics in terms of like the car accident, my DNA started to read driving differently, right? Like when I would drive, my body would be like, oh, this is dangerous. This is not, we got to be careful. We got to pay attention. We got to focus, right? So driving for a while was not, that fun. Not saying it's like I'm not race car driving. You know what I'm saying? I drive fast here and there when I'm listening to specific kind of music. But outside of that, driving should be like you shouldn't be all tensed up, right? You shouldn't be freaked out because that's going to make you be a bad driver, right? You need to drive with calmness. So there's a lot of people, not sure if you're listening to this right now, who drive like that and maybe should stop or whatever. But back to epigenetics. I keep leaving that point. So back to epigenetics. Our bodies physically, not just emotionally, physically change when we experience trauma, when trauma impacts our bodies, whether that's like physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, mental abuse. When we experience some type of situation that initially is like a shock to our body or brings our body out of its natural calm state, that's that can be essentially like a trauma, right? Like I said, grief, people passing away, sudden changes, moving, like all of these things can be traumatic, if they're not done right or if you're not aware. And it's important to know this because, like I said in the definition, this is all off Google. So, you know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff, you can look it up. But with epigenetics, there is, what is it? When trauma hits our body. So let me go back. So I'm going to connect these real quick so y'all can flow with me. Just ride with me here. You know what I'm saying? Everything comes full circle, even though you might be lost for a second. Just ride with me. So trauma is being passed down through intergenerational trauma, right? And the thing that most people are not aware of is that the waves in their brain changed 3-4 generations ago, right? So, let's say, Black people. Black people, obviously, we was once slaves, right? And we could see that obviously it changed our DNA, right? Our specific habits, specific patterns, good. There's good patterns that happen too. But when we talk about trauma, we're talking about some of the negative things that have been passed down. And that means that the waves in their brain changed. And then the waves in the next person's changed, and so on and so forth. And so the way that we go about breaking these patterns, these things that are being passed down, is by kind of not reverting, but we have to heal what is happening in the brain. Because these things are not permanent. People be like, oh, well, that's how they act, so I got to act like that. That's my family, so I got to act like that. These are people I grew up with, so I got to act like that. You don't. You don't have to fall in line with those patterns. Because essentially, even though they changed your waves in your brain, it's a pattern, right? It's, what's the word that I want to say? It's a habit. Your body has picked up on a habit, right? And once you understand the epigenetics, then you can understand that these things, these traumas are unlearnable. I don't know if that's a word, but we're going to go with it because I like the way it sounds. Unlearnable, right? These are things that you can release. You don't have to fall into the pattern, right? You don't have to fall into the wiring of that. You can start to break up the wiring, right? And even create your own new wiring, right? Create your own new version of yourself, of your family, of the way that you guys want to walk and talk and live life. You don't have to fall in line with the things that have been handed to you, right? Because, like I said, they are physical things that we learn and we pick up from our families, but there's a lot of mental and emotional stuff that has rewired our brains, rewired the way that we see ourselves, the way that we operate in the world, whether or not we go for something or we stay stagnant. That's the wiring in our brain. And if we're not aware of those patterns, we will live the exact same lives that we once despised when we were kids, right? And you know what I'm talking about? You'll be like, when I'm an adult, I'm not going to act like this. I'm not going to act like her. I'm not going to act like him. The whole time, you your mother's daughter, right? You your father's son, and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like it's bad for them, or you don't have to still be mad at them, but their characteristics I'm messing up my words. Their characteristics will show up in you if you're not aware of them. So I'll give you an example. Okay, come on. Because I know everybody don't like to share around a circle. You know what I'm saying? So I'll start with myself so we all feel safe. You know what I'm saying? This is a safe space. So come on in. Come on in. So I just finished my 40-day fast. For Jesus. It was a 40-day sugar fast. And it was amazing. My skin cleared up a lot. My hair grew. It's still growing, but it grew more than what it was. And so shout out to God for that. The big one and the little one. But no, the 40-day fast was great. It was super amazing. One of the things that I noticed is that there was a lot of physical sensations because obviously I'm trying to stay away from sugar. Not, I even decided to, this is funny. I even decided to let go of alcohol and sex. Wait, hold on, don't clap too soon. I ruined one or both of those. I'm not really sure. I'm not, whatever. You could choose if you really think I ruined both or just one. I'm sure it probably was one, maybe. Anyways, so I had, detox from 3 things. And so it was really powerful because it helped me to recognize what things I give my attention to versus what things I, want to run to, or like I would eat sugar to help me to, because sugar is an emotional food, by the way. I don't know if y'all know this, but sugar is when we feel sad, when we feel depressed, when we're feeling upset at ourselves, or so on and so forth. A lot of times we eat sugar, right? You don't look at me crazy. You was messing them cookies up. You know what I'm saying? You the one that ate them. Don't let. Okay, you been having a diet all year, and then you go to grandma's house, and now you eating the sweet potato pie, and you done licked it dry. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just, look, and them donuts, I see them on your counter every day, and I know that's a new pack because it's only 3, and I know you eat more than 3. I know you eat more than 3 donuts. So anyways, I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, if you're the donut lover. But yeah, we eat sugar when we're like feeling sad, when we're feeling, emotional. And so the fast in itself helped me to recognize those triggers, or when I, I want to eat something sweet. Well, what's that mean? Why you want to eat something sweet? You sad? You mad that man didn't text you back? You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, a little bit, but then I could process through that emotion. You know what I'm saying? Because who cares about a man? But anyways, no, I'm just kidding. I gotta stop saying stuff like that for real, because I really want God to send me my soulmate, but I be messing it up a little bit. Anyways, I wasn't talking nothing about that. The 40-day fast, the part that was so impactful, I think, just in the midst of it all, is learning about the things that have been passed down to me, like from my mom to my grandmas, my great-grandmas, and so on and so forth, and my father and my grandfather, and so on, just kind of this breakdown of like, when you think of like a family chart or a family map or something, a tree, everything is coming down to you, right? All the roots, you're the closest to the ground because you're connected to the roots. All these things are connected to you, right? Which means that, like, essentially they pour into you. Like, you are literally a combination of all of these people, right? Which is great. But then there's probably some pullback too. Like, there's probably some moments where you're like, this is not, y'all not cut from the right cloth, or cut from any cloth, right? Or y'all just not tea, you're Hennessy. I think I see that tweet like that. But for me, though, I think the biggest thing was in terms of things that have been passed down. And I look at all of the aspects. Like, I think one of the episodes I had talked about, the second episode, I believe, I had talked about how, my dad can be more of a perfectionist and my mom has anxiety, them things are passed down. Like there are times where I can be like, damn, mom, she was anxious. She was depressed, or he was like, I could see, and sometimes the way that he would respond to things, I would be like, oh, I mean, now me as an adult, I can be like, oh, that's what was happening, right? You were operating out of that part of yourself, right? And those traits have now shown up in me, right? There's moments where I'll be like, damn, you're acting like Nadine. My mom, you're acting like Nadine. Like, you know what I'm saying? And not that that's a bad thing, but these are in the aspect of like our anxiety, right? And then having to be mindful of like how that made me feel when I was a kid, right? And, it's always funny because when we get to be an adult, we be like, see, mom, you know what? My mama was right this whole time. And it's like, yes, she was, but sometimes I think that we negate the fact of like, yes, I might agree with some of the ways that she did things, but all of the ways that she did things was probably not the best. You know what I'm saying? Two things to be true at once. That you could see, you could understand from her point of view why she chose to do certain things. And then you could also be aware of like some of those things that she did, even though I understand now that she did it out of love and protection, I can make better decisions out of that same, thought process. You know what I mean? But, back to the in terms of like the fast, one of the things that I noticed was, which is funny because we're here together because of it, this insecurity that had been passed down, like more from my mom's side, but, with the perfectionist spirit, them two things don't go together, baby. Like you got insecurity and you a perfectionist. What are we? We not about to do nothing but like be in a fetal position against the wall because you're not getting anything done. You think that you're not that good to do it, and then it's too good. Like if it's not done to a certain quality, then you're not gonna do it. You're not doing anything. How much fun are you having in life, right? But as I was noticing how those things have been passed down, I started to think about how my parents' lives, like how they, their story has shown up. And I'm sure I'll probably share. But, my mom had experienced a lot of trauma in terms of like grief and in terms of, maybe at times not feeling like she was good enough, right? Now, did she ever teach me that I wasn't good enough? No. You know what I'm saying? They told me I was the prettiest girl since the time I was born. But it was in her DNA or her DNA sequence. It was part of her body, right? That at times she didn't feel that good. And so without even realizing it, she done put it in me, right? Because we go back to those eggs, everything she experienced, I experienced. So there's times where I can't put my finger on it, but I'm like, I feel like this situation is triggering me, but I ain't never been in a situation like this. It's probably not mine. You know what I'm saying? It's probably something that had been developed over time. And the same for my dad. My dad is always been like a working man. He's a computer man, very clean, very put together, But that was also something that was put into him, right? Which is not a bad thing because it was beat into him, right? Sometimes physically. Because it was beat into him, it changed the waves in his brain, right? And made him, sometimes, a lot of times, let me not lie, strive for perfection. He's also a Libra. Take what applies. Take what applies. Y'all a little different. He's a Libra. I love y'all though. I do. I have a lot of Libras. And most of the Libras that are in my life, just about all of them, want perfection. They might not say they want perfection, but they're going to strive for it. And they're going to hold you and them to the same expectation. But sometimes those expectations that were put on me were too high. You know what I mean? And so as I was trying to, navigate and knowing, before I keep going, it's not my parents' fault that, you know what I'm saying? They can be aware and take their accountability in it, right? But they didn't tell their brain to give me all their trauma that they had before they had me. Hell, they probably thought that they was giving me, the idea is they give me a better life based off of what they taught me. But other things had already came from them into me before they could teach me anything, right? That was just the icing on the cake at that point. And so when I was recognizing these things and being able to break it down, I noticed when insecurities would pop up, my body would be like, oh, I need food. I need, and me and my mom went on a fast with me too. And a lot of the sensations, we have very similar sensations, right? At very similar times where that insecurity would pop up, right? I haven't done a fast with my dad, but, well, no, actually, he might have been doing a fast too, maybe, because he always participates in the church's events. The fast was through the church, so it's like, but he's in Texas and we're in Minnesota, and so it's just like he loves the church. Anyways, with me even recognizing too, it's funny how the insecurity and the perfection play off of each other, because the insecurity would be like, or the perfection would be like, oh, this is not done right, and then the insecurity would be like, you're not good enough to do it, but then you can see how those could be counterproductive, right? And being able to understand the way that I play a part in that process too, to either reaffirm those ways that I see myself at times, and then also this unlearning of where that comes from and how deeply that's rooted in me, and being able to allow those thoughts to come up so I can process through them. Is this my thought? No. Is it my mom's? It might be, right? And obviously understanding that there's forgiveness, because that's the only way we can really be able to let these things go, rewire our brain, right? Actually, did I have something about that? I do. Give me a second. Let me finish this. I lied. We're going to go over here. No. Sorry. The joys of ADHD. But when I started to notice that those patterns were similar, I was able to identify how it showed up in my life and how it shows up in her life, and potentially how it showed up in her mom's life, which unfortunately, I'm not able to ask her. She had passed when my mom was about 6, So we talking about like deep-rooted trauma that's like embedded in us. And you got to think too, just for example of how intergenerational trauma works in the terms of insecurity. If you lost your parent, this isn't her story specifically. She'll probably tell her own story. But if you lost your mom at an age like that, right? In therapy, a lot of kids will feel as if they did something to deserve that, or maybe it's because they were not a good kid, or there's something wrong with them, right? That's an inherited, a deep-rooted insecurity, right? All of your body feels that, right? So me as an egg, I felt that, right? I mean, I don't remember what I was, what was happening when I was just floating around, but I felt that, right? Because I could say it because I could feel it now, even as I'm talking to you. And then how that now translated over to me, right? So when we talk about trauma, we're not just talking about the things that people may have done to you or that you directly experience. We're talking about the things that are showing up in your generation that are being passed down, right? One of the things I learned too was that extreme fear changes our fear circuitry in our brain, which may kick in the prefrontal cortex, which begins to function less efficiently. So think about it. When you've had a traumatic experience, one, your body probably goes into fight or flight, which is like it has to do something, or freeze or fawn, right? Fawn is the codependent one. But a lot of times we are not functioning at our highest level, right? Think about when you had a traumatic experience and then once you left it, you're like, damn, I wish I would have did this, and this. But it's like your body wasn't even able to function enough to come up with thoughts, right? Or come up with solutions. It had to essentially come to a place where it was more balanced, it was more centered to now come into awareness to even function or ask for help or get a solution, right? So if you're hearing this and you're watching this, you know, you're probably like, well, what's she talking about? Because I've been talking for a while. But the idea is that generational trauma, intergenerational trauma is interlocked, right? And so as you're doing your work, as you're doing, or if you're trying to start your work and you're like, where do I start at? You know, you can start wherever you want to. It's your life. But if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, I see the patterns of my family. I see the way things have been passed down. I see that even me and my current body, I may be passing down to my own children because we do that too. Even though we're being intentional about changing that and trying to show up different for our kids, some things, one, have already been passed down, right? That doesn't mean we stop, but just be aware of that. And the second thing is that we're also in the process of unlearning. So a lot of this, we have to have compassion with ourselves to know that healing is such an intentional process that you can't just run through this. You have to be grounded and be slow in the process. You have to slow down. Think about anytime you rush through something, a lot of times it ended horribly. You forgot details, things didn't work, the person was crazy. I'm not speaking personally, I'm just saying out loud, right? You rush through things, you find out the details later, right? But when you go slow through things, you're aware of like, oh, this is a thing, I like this, I don't like this, right? So you don't want to rush through healing because you're going to recognize that you missed a whole bunch of stuff back over there, right? But you take your time to understand, oh, this is rooted from my mom. This is rooted from my dad. You know, this is my great grandma. This is my father, right? I was able to kind of like really dig deep and see like whose energies, you know, that I have in me. I mean, I have a lot of people's of my family in me, but, you know, being able to recognize that there's good things that have been passed down to me too. And there's a lot of things that maybe were protective tactics at one point that now I don't need to use anymore, right? Like, real quick story before we start closing out. This mouth is vicious. I can't hold you. You know what I'm saying? Like, if a situation happens, my ability to go into instant rage is crazy. It's almost like spot on, right? Now, whether or not that's because I'm a Gemini is another thing, but it was always like spot on, right? And I've picked that up along the way, but like that gotta be genetically passed down. The way my mom and my grandma can really, cuss somebody out in the worst way almost instantly has to be studied, right? Research needs to be done. The way that I can, and it's scary to the point where like I have my son, he's 11. I think I saw this before. And he's kind of a large child, right? His dad's big. He's going to be a tall kid. He got the same temper. That's my dad's temper, my brother's temper. We all got the same type of temperament, right? Because we all shared that same DNA sequence. Our DNA reads conflict similar, right? Not the same, but it reads as similar because we have similar responses to the trauma, right? And so even in the aspect of like being mindful of, I got to watch my mouth sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because it's vicious. It's vicious, but that's a pattern I have to be aware and unlearn and know that was, like I said, a protective act at one point and not actual reality. Like, you know, my grandma might have needed to protect herself verbally to make sure, keep people away from her that were maybe trying to harm her, right? And the same with my mom. I mean, yeah, it comes in handy for that specific purpose, but like, I mean, back a couple years ago, yeah. But a lot of times when I even get to that place, I know that there's other avenues. I know I have other options. Like, I don't got to just wear nobody out, cuss them out real bad, hurt their feelings, you know what I'm saying? And attempt to say sorry afterwards. I'm going to say sorry, but I'm going to also be like, I did it to yourself. Pretty non-confrontational for the most. I mean, it's a Gemini thing. So whatever. It was just this aspect of knowing that these things are so ingrained in me that I have to be, one, intentional about releasing it and transmuting it into something, beautiful and keeps me self-aware and, but it also get into a place where my trauma is not my first response. Like, my traumatic responses is not my first go. Like, you don't got to cuss them out. Maybe you could just express your feelings. Maybe you should just tell them why you're upset. Maybe not have be a raging ball of fire. Like, I've been likened to a pit bull multiple times, right? And I was like, I could never understand. But like, a pit bull is like on go. Like, that's how quick my temper is, right? And so part of my body is like waiting for something to happen. And I'm very sure that's not good for my nervous system. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. We're going to talk more about trauma, but I really wanted to set that basis as we move forward in terms of like the different topics, because we have to be aware, whether you're a parent, your auntie, or uncle, the ones in the middle, you know what I'm saying? Wherever you are, a teacher, so on and so forth. Anytime we're in a child's life specifically, but anybody's life, we can, or with children, we could pass it down, but that trauma is just living in us if we're not aware of it, right? So we got to change. If you change the way you think, you change your environment, right? There's a way better quote of that, but that's all I had. And I appreciate y'all for being here. I love you guys so much. I'm excited for, what things are to come. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, y'all be smooth. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Why? Because it's Tella. Why would you do anything else? I thought we were friends, right? Don't let me down. No, I'm just playing. Please like, share, subscribe, tune in, on TikTok. What's the other ones? Instagram. Wow. Anyways, follow my social medias. I don't be on X that much, but I will try. My friend says, I need to get on there more often. So anyways, share, let people know about the podcast. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Y'all be smooth. You know what I'm saying? Out in here in these streets. And I'll see y'all next week.